Okay, every so often I like to play around with maths, and I came across this series 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 all the way up to 1 over n, and I wanted to figure out whether something about the sum of it all. And apparently it's known as the harmonic series. So one of the questions that came into my head was this. For n greater than or equal to 2, is 1 over n plus 1 plus 1 over n plus 2 always greater than 1 over n? Okay, so I thought let's plug in some numbers, and I plugged in n equals 1. So for n equals 1, 1 over n plus 1 is 1 over 2, plus 1 over 3 equals 3 over 6 plus 2 over 6, which is 5 over 6, which obviously is less than n equals 1, 1 over 1. But that's okay, because I'm only looking at values of n greater than 2. So let's plug in the value of n for 2, and you get 1 over 3 plus 1 over 4, which is equal to 4 over 12, plus 3 over 12, which is 7 over 12. And n is equal to 2, so 1 over 2. So is 7 over 12 greater than 1 over 2? Yes, it is. So it's true for that value. Okay. Now, 1 over n plus 1 plus 1 over n plus 2 greater than 1 over n is the same as saying that this take away this is greater than 0. So that's what I've written down. So 1 over n plus 1 plus 1 over n plus 2, take away 1 over n, is greater than 0. Okay, so then expand that. So the common denominator is going to be n plus 1 times n plus 2 times n. And then obviously you've got to play around with the numerators. So the top here becomes n plus 2 times n times n plus 1, take away n plus 1 times n plus 2, and greater than 0. Okay, and then expand on that. Okay, so n squared plus 2n, n squared plus 2n, plus n squared plus n squared plus n, take away n squared plus, or rather minus, n 2n, which is minus 3n minus 2. And then the things cancel out. 2n, 3n, take away 3n, and n squared, take away n squared. And what's left is n squared minus 2 over n times n plus 1 times n plus 2. And there we go. I've cleared it up. Okay, let's move this up a bit. All right. Okay. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment. Okay, now what does this tell you? For values of n greater than n squared greater than 2, this value is always going to be positive, because the bottom's always positive for positive values. And when it comes to negative numbers, for values of n less than minus 2, then the bottom's always going to be positive, because n's always going to be minus times a minus, which is always going to give you a plus. So either side of 2, you get values which are negative. But greater than 2, then this value is always positive. Less than minus 2, this value is always positive. So when n squared is greater than 2, this equation is greater than 0. And when n squared, which is basically saying, therefore, n greater than square root of 2, and if we're talking whole numbers, then basically that results in n greater than 1, then 1 over n plus 1 plus 1 over n plus 2 is always greater than 1 over n for n greater than or equal to 2. And I thought it was quite interesting, because I also believe that this also proves that the series is divergent. The 1 over n, this series is divergent, because two values that follow are always greater than the sum of the two values that follow are always greater than the previous value. Okay, there we go. So that's my bit of maths. Whether it's of any value to you or anyone else, doesn't matter. I just had fun with it. Cheers. Bye from the Scar Man, the Zulf.